Saludos y bienvenidos a Conversaciones de Salud. Welcome to our show, Conversaciones de Salud con Carmen Robles and Associates. I want to give a great big shout out and a hello and a thank you very much to a Strong Mind, Strong Body Foundation, to Pepe, our virtual producer out there in outer space, to Hennepin County Public Health, Human Partnership, Speak Minneapolis, Minnesota Recovery Connection, and of course, to our Partners for Pain researchers. Bienvenidos, welcome Partner for Pain. Researchers, glad to have you in our series. This is our second in a three-part series that we're talking about research. ¿Qué es la investigación 101? We had the pleasure of meeting with Douglas and team members in June, where we talked about what research was, the simplest terms. Is there just one type of research? How do you get a job in research? What makes a good researcher? Why do you do it? And so now we're going to pick up that pace with the same conversation with our two new guests. We're welcoming back Douglas Kennedy, PhD, Dr. Kennedy, y his assistant professor. Saludos. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien, ¿y tú? Con mucho gusto.
Bien, gracias. I'm so happy to be welcoming Amy, researcher community engagement, and Shraddha Bika. Please correct me with that Puerto Rican pronunciation I just threw in your name. And she's a researcher and health practitioner. And so if we could start, I'd like to start with Douglas so that you can just give us catch up of what we did last time. And then if we can move on to our researchers.
Sounds good.
Take it away, Douglas.
Okay. Well,
Gracias.
so last time we gave, I guess, what we'd call, like the 10,000 foot overview of what research is and how our team tries to work with communities and establish that link between what we do as in healthcare, at the university, and why that matters to communities and the link in community well-being. Because when we think about that, right, and Carmen, your own experience, right, you saw that link in research and how scientific advancement can help treatment. We're doing that same thing,
Yes.
right? Working with communities together in the case of our program to look at, okay, well, what do people think about our programs? How are they, is this reaching them? Are they effective? And we need to have community members be part of that so that we can then, package these up, see if they're effective, and then be able to get them out in the community where people can use them.
Thank you. That's a wonderful summary. And then our researcher, our guest, Douglas, would you mind please introducing them? You know them very
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
And you know the research, and what we want to keep that same theme, that same topic of why you're a researcher, what brought you into it, and just a quick hello to our audience. So please, thank you, Douglas.
Yeah. So what we're going to know is kind of like from the last show is that you can be in research in a lot of different ways. And our team is varied. We've got clinicians, so people that are like Shraddha, who's a physical therapist, Amy, who came to us from the YMCA, lots of different looks. So for our own researchers, here's what I'd like you to do, right? If you could just quick introduce yourself, the role that you have, maybe like a sentence or two, and then, why you got into this thing called research. Okay. So I can model it. My name is Doug Kennedy. I interview people. I build community relationships. I help out with screening, bringing people into our program. And I used to be a high school teacher. And the reason that I got into research is that I like building relationships. And I was really curious. I had a lot of questions, and I'm able to have, to bring both of those to the work that I do. And then, Amy, how about if I kick it over to you for your introduction?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Doug. Buenas tardes. I'm Amy McGarnis. As Doug mentioned, I have a background in working in community organizations like the YMCA, where I worked with older adults in developing their well-being. And so one of the things that drew me to the work that this team does is the focus on well-being and helping folks achieve well-being. I'm also a chronic pain sufferer as well, so I'm interested in the work and making sure that solutions are given to folks, are developed and researched. But I really didn't know much about research until I started working with this team. So I think I bring a community perspective and can help bridge that gap between researchers and the community. So that's what really excites me, is working with people.
All right. Thanks, Amy. And then
Very
Shraddha,
exciting. We'll go back to that. Uh-huh.
yeah. And then how about Shraddha? Shraddha, why don't you introduce yourself too?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me on here. So yes, my name is Shraddha Bika. Carmen, you did get it right. I'm a physical therapist. I've practiced for about 25 years, and I still continue to do that a little bit. I joined the team on one of the prior studies when they needed a physical therapist to do that piece of the study. And that study has now ended, and we're in the new study. But this was also my first introduction to research, like Amy. I just love the work that this team does. And I want to give a special shout out to this program. It's my first experience working with the community. I'm usually on the back end working one on one with people, um, working with insurance, diagnoses, all of that healthcare jargon. And what I do like about this program is just that I'm meeting people where they're at, person to person, no titles, no nothing. But we're still doing the useful work of bringing the education to them without that barrier of insurance or equipment or, just kind of navigating that healthcare system that can sometimes be hard for people. And the team has actually inspired me to pursue a master's in public health. So I'm doing a little bit of a pivot in my career where I want to continue to work with people and help people in pain. My background has been chronic neck and back pain, even with physical therapy. Just had an affinity to working with that population. So this is a good fit for me. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. And thank you, Douglas, for those introductions. Piggybacking on that, so what information is being collected when you go into the community?
Mhm.
In my community, we're a little, touchy about what type of information you're going to gather. I'm very touchy. What are you going to do with it? Where is
Mhm.
it going to go? How is it going to be used? And so I
Mhm.
wondered if we could just take a minute on that. And if you notice my Partners for Pain t-shirt,
Mhm.
that's what we do at Partners for Pain. When we agree with something, we give it a 5. And so if you could please uh, just touch a little bit about that, what people can expect when
Yeah,
you come and you talk to us about signing up for research. What can we expect? And if you could just walk us through that.
sure, sure. Amy,
And who'd like to do
Amy or
that?
Shraddha, would you like to take a swing at it first, or would you like me to give a little tee up?
Sure, I can jump in, Doug.
Okay, please.
Yeah, I'm like you, Carmen. I'm a little suspicious. Why do you need all this information? What are you gonna do with it? Why do you ask these questions? I'm a why person. I want to know why. And I think our team is
That's right.
respectful of that. We do collect certain contact information. We got to be able to get a hold of you, but we try to limit it to really what we need and what people are willing to provide. If their preference is email or by phone, like, we can do that. We don't collect any financial information. We don't want your social security number, any background information like that. We do not collect that. We do not want the responsibility for it. We don't need it. We don't collect any your medical records. We're not going to ask to see those. We're going to ask you to self-report about your pain and how you're feeling. Just, your own words. How are you doing? We'll never collect. We do ask certain questions about your any drug use that you might be using. We ask about your mental health. Those are some topics that are considered sensitive, that we know people can be sensitive about. We ask about those in anonymous surveys. It's not like that information is just, we're not talking about it every day. It's in a few surveys that we collect because we want to make sure that it's safe for everyone to participate. And there are certain reasons that it might not be safe for someone to participate. So again, we really just ask about, the minimum that we need. We keep it safely stored in a secure database, and we access, only our team can access it. We try to keep it very restricted to who needs that information, what do they need it for, and we try to leave it at that.
Okay.
And
Amy,
so if I
back to
don't have insurance, or if I if I don't have insurance, if I don't have the proper paperwork. I do have pain. I would like to participate because maybe one, I have no access to drugs because I have no health insurance,
Right.
and two, because I do want to see what I can do naturally. Would I be a
Yeah.
good fit, or would someone like myself? Would you consider that a good
Yeah.
fit?
Yeah. So Carmen, I think you bring up a really important point, and then Sharada, why don't you jump in on this as well? So we always want to make sure, like Amy said, that if someone comes to us, let's say they see a flyer, they watch this broadcast, maybe they've gone to our website, they've seen it. When they come to us, we want to make sure that it's a good fit, and that's what you're
Mhm.
talking about. Do I have the right kind of pain? Right? What's going to happen? And then we want to make sure that it's safe, and also that the person that's coming to us understands what's going to happen in the study, right? So those are all really important. What you're talking about is, we call it an inclusion criteria. It's like who are we looking at, right? Who's eligible to join this study? And ours is really wide open. You need to be 18 years of age or older. You need to have had pain, neck or back pain for 3 months. And then we're looking at some specific populations that haven't been included in research before. So these would be folks that are low socioeconomic status. So we're talking household income of $50,000 or less. And then what our funder is calling the racialized or ethnic minorities. And these, again, folks have not been included in research. And to make sure that our interventions are people like them and that they're effective, we want to make sure that these folks are part of our study as well. So as you described it, if you've had pain for that long, you'd be a good fit. But what's going to happen is one of our teammates will call you, have a conversation with you, talk to you to see if it's a good fit. And then there are multiple steps to make sure that you understand what's going to happen and that it will be safe for you. Sharada, is there anything else that you'd want to add to that?
Well, to answer Carmen's specific question about the insurance, you do not need to have insurance to be in our study. That's, one of the barriers that we are trying to eliminate with the program. So thank you for asking that very important question. And also, we value your time that you're giving to us. So we also provide compensation. So, if you're in the study, depending on how many steps you make it through. We compensate people to come to our study and give us their time and valuable feedback. And also, if transportation is a barrier, right? You can't get to us because of no car or any other barriers like that. We provide transportation as well. So we offer to pick, well, not me personally, but we use a company called Transportation Plus that will offer to pick you up and drop you off. And also, we have the Zoom option to be in our program. So if you like the comfort of your own home, you can also log in via Zoom. So again, lots of ways that we think about how everybody can participate. And thank you, Doug and Amy, for clarifying. As long as you have, the type of pain that we're looking to study, which is neck and back pain for us right now. But yeah, it is a very inclusive criteria, again, to use Doug's words. And if you have any questions, I would say just call us and we'll help you kind of get through to the next step, right? So if you're wondering, do I qualify? It's better to give us a call. And then if you don't qualify, maybe you have some information that you can help bring to the person that you think may qualify. Thank you.
I want to take a step back real quick because we've talked about the steps, right, in which someone comes to us, comes to our team, comes to the study. And I'm wondering if it would be really helpful when we talk about these steps to really explain what's going on, right? Like, are you coming to an office? Like, how long do these things take?
Yes.
How do people come into contact with you? And I'm wondering if that might be helpful to walk people through it, because it is, it can take a little bit of time. Amy or Sharada, would you like to pick that one up?
Sure, I can. Yeah. So the first step is finding out about the study, right? And this is one way we're doing it. We're trying to reach as many folks as we can in the community. We're on social media. Shameless plug to follow us. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, feel free to search Partners4Pain. And so however you find out about us, there are a couple different ways you can get in touch with us. You can call us, as Sharada said. We've got a phone number on all of our materials. We'd love to talk with you. We love to interact. So don't be shy to just call. If you don't like the phone, you can email us and we can have a conversation by email. What we're going to do is we're going to ask you to complete a really short survey that lets you know right off the bat if you're eligible, if you meet these inclusive criteria that my colleagues have mentioned. You have the pain, you have you fit our qualifying communities, you're 18 plus, right? So the basics, just a really basic intake. It asks a little bit about your pain. It asks for your contact information. And from there, we call you and we have a brief conversation where we schedule the first appointment, which we call our first screening visit. And that visit, you can come see us in person. We're on the north side at UROC, which is a university research outpost on the north side of Minneapolis. Or you can come to visit us on Zoom as well. A lot of folks prefer to visit from the comfort of their own home. We love these virtual experiences like we're having now. And I think our team is really good at interacting that way. So we leave it up to you how you want to reach out to us and how you want to have that first visit. I'll pause there, see if somebody else wants to pick up the chain from here.
Yeah, Shraddha, do you want to talk a little bit more about like in that first screening, as Amy called, like what's happening there in kind of a high level view of that?
Yeah, thank you, Amy. So to get to the next step then, if you do make it to our first screening visit, I want to warn people it is a little bit of a long appointment. It's an hour and a half long appointment, but it's very intentional. There's a reason why it's long. One, because we want to tell you about our study. We want to tell you everything about our study. We do not want to leave anything out so that people don't think later on like, I did not know that, or that was sneaky, like they weren't upfront about this. So to eliminate that, we have, like I said, an hour and a half long visit, which can be done in person or on Zoom. If you come in person, I'm one of those people who does that appointment. I'll meet you at the door. I'll greet you. We have some coffee and tea. You want to make sure you're comfortable. And then we start by kind of asking you some questions, right? Like, hey, what do you need to know? What more do you need to know after the first screening visit? And we play a video for you. So that again kind of details what is the study, what's involved, what are we going to ask you to do? And then after that, we do a little question and answer session to make sure that we're all on the same page, right? Sometimes I may say something and you may hear it a certain way. And then we have a chance to clarify like, oh, yes, or no, you know what? Let me rephrase that. I actually meant this. Is that okay with you? So we do a little bit of that. If all goes well, then we ask you to sign a form. We call it the consent form. So a little paperwork, right? The form is basically saying that, hey, we have given you all this information. Are you okay to go forward with our study? And so we kind of sign and date it. And I also sign a form. So, it's in case anybody's worried about just signing forms, it's like both of us mutually, right? I gave you the information. My name is also on that form to make sure that, yeah, she did a good job, right? Because if I didn't tell you something, they'll know it was Shraddha. But so just like it's back and forth. We ask you to sign some forms, and then we may ask you to take a survey. The survey is a little bit of a longer survey, maybe 15 minutes or so. Again, it asks you some deeper questions about your pain, your health, just some information about you, and based on that, if things land right and we see there's a fit with the type of pain that you have and you're still interested, then we move you along to a second screening visit. And I'll pause there.
Well, Shraddha,
Okay, may I ask, Shraddha, how about for people who that English is not their first language?
Yeah, that is a great question. Correct me, Amy and Doug, if I'm wrong, but right now we're working with people who feel comfortable with English. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for pointing that out, though, Carmen. We have heard from many people that for a lot of folks, myself included, right? English is not my first language. And so, like, I think about that too. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. It's something we're noting. And that's what we're doing in this study through and through, right? If you have feedback, we want to hear it because can we do this better the next time around? So I appreciate that.
Yes.
And just to piggyback on
And
that,
I think that's
But do you mind if I
Yes, go
piggyback
right
on that real
ahead.
quick, Carmen? Yeah. So, I mean, you
Please,
and I have
yes.
had a lot of discussions about this specifically, right? And well, we know that a lot of folks in our communities English is not their first language. So, what do we do with this, right? And so, like, we've partnered with other community organizations to say once we see that, is this program effective? What do people think about it? Gathering that feedback for community, we can then start to work with those community partners. Say, okay, let's now see if we can move this into translation, make sure that it's relevant for, let's say a community center, a church, or things like that. And that's really important. At this point, we are working, as Shraddha, I think you said it really well, we're working with people who are comfortable with English. And then it's really in the next stages as this is rolled out in the community that's where we're going to do the next phase. And hopefully we can do grants in the future where we'd be able to offer additional language resources. Amy, anything else to add to that too?
No, I think you've got
Well,
it, Doug.
Okay. Carmen?
If I may add,
Mhm.
I think this is, yes, if I may add, this is the importance of doing this type of conversation, even
Mhm.
with its technical difficulties. My apologies on my end, because we need to have that conversation so
Mhm.
that we hear it enough times that we trust it. And I'm
Mhm.
part of your community outreach team.
Mhm.
And I want to thank you for that invitation because it's allowed us the opportunity to talk about in Spanish, it's called investigaciones.
Mhm.
So research. And as we've spoken before, Douglas,
Yeah.
my passion in research goes directly to my diagnosis of breast cancer
Mhm.
and how researchers really are the ones that help find a cure or the ability to live with this disease. And so
Mhm.
that's why I became so interested in research. And I'm very interested in Amy's background because I also understand that you're an actress or you've done acting. And I wondered, do you find that that's even easier when you talk to people about
Mhm.
pain? And as a and I understand from what you said, you live with chronic pain,
Mhm.
and so I'm just kind of curious, like how you're able to connect it all together. And I understand why you want to be a researcher now. I thought I'd just throw that in.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Carmen. Yeah, I do have a background in theater. Actually, studied theater at the University of Minnesota and have worked locally. I find that I feel like I'm really comfortable in front of people, and so our programs are group programs, right? We work with groups of about 12 to 18 people. Some folks have a hard time being in front of groups of people or being live on a program like this. It's very comfortable for me to be in front of people, and also I feel like my listening skills as an actor, you're taught to really invest in who you're working with, your partner, and so listening to people and hearing what motivates them, what drives them. That's so fascinating to me. Another aspect that I've been able to really use my varied background in well-being and in theater is in helping to develop the videos that we use in the programs. So the educational pieces of our programs are delivered in these group settings. We all watch a video together about an education topic, right? And so I've voiced some of those videos. I've helped produce them. So it's really a nice way to see these different aspects of my background come together and to be useful in a research setting. Like, who knew I'd end up working in science, right? I not my forte, but it takes a lot of different approaches and perspectives, and that's what I value about this team is we do have a lot of different backgrounds, and so a lot of different thinking goes into it to really try to understand the needs of many people instead of just one approach, right? We have a very varied approach. So thanks for asking that.
Yeah, thank you so much. The same question
Mhm.
to you, Shraddha. As a physical therapist, is that correct? I could see that total connection with that body and the back and so how with your excitement and doing what you're doing, how is that connection now at this point as a researcher, and with science being attacked, and with researchers being cut down, and all of that? How is that? How are you dealing with all of this?
Yeah. Thank you. Wow, lots of questions there, Carmen. Let me start with the physical therapy background. So I feel like that is just a good fit, right? I'm used to working with people with neck and back pain. I'm used to educating people one-on-one about how to take care of their neck or back pain. Exercises is good for me. Thanks to Amy, now I'm a model in the exercise videos, so I've expanded um, my toolkit of things that I can do. So that comes easy in alignment. I also dabble in meditation and mindfulness practice. And yoga. That's just also something I do personally. And the programs that we're offering, especially in the Partners for Pain, we have the mind body component. So that ties in well to something that I love to do as well. So again, the passion and the alignment is there. And then to answer that last question, yeah, I'm trying to stay optimistic, right? Since February, and then we're still here today. So fingers crossed. We'll just continue to do the good work. Going back to the insurance question, I was out in community. I also wear many hats. I do community. I go out into the communities to help spread the word, flyering, if you will, or go to fairs and we table at the events. We come to these events. But one of the persons voiced that now with some of the programs being cut, people may have less access to insurance if they even had it before. So I'm really glad that we have this program where people can still have access to just great quality care that they can do for themselves with just a little bit of support from us. So yeah, thank you for asking that question. I don't
Yeah,
I don't
I
know if that
feel like
answers.
it's very up in the air what's happening, but I feel as a member of the Partners for Pain team that no matter what happens, our work, the seed has been planted,
Mhm.
and once you educate, you can't uneducate a person. And so while everything is very iffy, and nobody knows anything, I'm so excited and confident that at least we're having this conversation, and that no one can take away and change. And so the work that you're doing is so, so very important. And I want to thank you again for joining us. Douglas, I'd like to send it back to you, and if you could just give me a quick little summary here, and because what I want to ask, I want to make sure that my community can go in there now with Tyrone Guzman on board. I feel very confident that that circle is even more tighter. So if you could just visit on that for a moment.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that you and I have talked about a lot, Carmen, is that this is bidirectional communication, right? That, in other words, that we're listening as much as we're speaking. And that point when, like working with, for example, the executive director at Centro, Tyrone Guzman, or when you and I sit down, or our community advisory team sits down, that we're learning, that we're listening, and then doing something with what we hear. One of the great parts, I think, in like the relationship that you and I have is how, learning about, more about the Latina community, but then also as you were learning more about research. And I see like the show in particular being, when people think about research, there could be a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, like even these initial questions. What's going to happen to my data? Are you going to, like, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to go after my medical records? Are you going to check my, my documentation status, my insurance? And, we need to address those things. So being able to, come on the air and talk with, Shraddha and Amy, these are people that if someone were to come into our study, they're going to see, if maybe they'll even be their facilitators, or they'll meet with them during the screening visits. It's really important that people know what's going to happen, so that worry and that concern can come down, because, maybe it's not the individual that's going to be in that study, but maybe it's their parent, maybe it's their neighbor, and we want to make sure that's open, right? So I think this work is really important because of both that communication and then also the condition that we're addressing, how we're trying to address it. That folks that don't have insurance will be able to, in the future, once these programs are rolled out, will be able to access it. So this is really a fantastic opportunity, Carmen. I always appreciate you being generous with your time and inviting us onto your show, and with our community partners. Where it's important that we're out in community talking with people so they recognize, they see our T-shirts or our faces. That's a huge, exactly. That's a really too, right?
Well, and this is what I really, really like about being part of this council is that openness of being able to have these conversations and not just being put off or oh, great idea, we'll bring that up later. It's always addressed right away. It's always, it comes together. You've been very generous in going to our shows, supporting the youth journalists that we're working with. And I think that is what creates that trust. And it's difficult because my community, we want to trust, but right now it's even more scarier than ever before. And so that adds to the trauma, which adds to the pain, which adds to not understanding. For me, these conversations give us a sense of hope that there is something there that health scientists are working on to make sure that we can have as close to natural abilities as possible. And so I also wanted to ask you, the panel here, about what have been the results. I've been involved for a year. We started at the beginning. We went over recruitment, my understanding. We finished with just glowing numbers. If you could please share that. I think it's very important to see what we've done so far. So whoever would like to jump in.
Amy, do you want to take a swing at that one? Because you work a lot with our website and our communications materials, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we did to start, Carmen, is we did what we call a pilot study. We did a small version of the study with a small group of people, about 40, well, it ended up being about 50 people, just to see if we could pull it off. Like, what do people think of this? Does it work? Can we get people to come to sessions? Like, it really is, can we do this work? It wasn't so much on, is it effective? It was like, how do we do this work? And a big piece of that was getting feedback from those participants about how it worked for them and what we could do better. And so we did that pilot study. We asked people what they thought, and the results were really great. Most people, over 80%, were very satisfied with either of the programs. Again, remember, we're looking at two different, I don't know if we've said this on this session yet, we're looking at two different education programs. We're trying to compare to see if one is better than the other at helping people with their pain. So we asked them, what do you think of these programs? In each group, the groups are very satisfied with the programs themselves. They saw improvement in their pain. They felt they had valuable tools that they learned. And so we took their feedback, we tweaked all the materials, we made it a little better based on their feedback, and now we've been rolling out our groups, and we've gone through two more groups now. So we're starting to get some data about how effective it is yet. We won't know until the trial's over for sure, but what we're hearing from people, I can give you stories, right? I can give you stories people tell us. For example, a woman I know had back surgery recently, and she told me that the techniques she learned in the program really helped her get through the recovery. It's very effective. Another participant I'm thinking of shared some of what she learned with a family member who was having a lot of pain as well, who found, even secondhand, found the information really useful and valuable. Because these are simple things that people can do without equipment. They don't have to go to a gym. You do it at home, you do it on your own. And so we won't have the final numbers until the end, but what we're hearing from people so far is that they really like what they're hearing. They find it valuable. Their pain is better. And what they really like is connecting with others in a group too. That's been a really powerful impact of this program, I think, is when you're in a room with somebody who understands your pain, like you don't have to make excuses about it, you don't have to explain it, they just get it. And so they feel very safe and very welcomed in this group setting. And even that is powerful. So, hope that helps.
Yes, I really liked what you said about the family, because in the Latino household, you may be talking to me, but once I go home,
Oh yeah.
you're talking to everybody. Yeah. And so I may be like, yeah, and all of a sudden it's totally changed, and I'm no longer as excited because my family wasn't included. And so when I come in with the information, they have a million questions, and so they're most likely to take that desire I have, that ganas to do it. It may be lessened. So I was happy to hear you say, because then, and I know it because I hear it at the meetings all the time. But it's good to share with the audience that the family as a whole is invited, or the participant can share all this information with the family. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we invite people, if you'd like to bring a family member with you to the first visit, so you feel like you have some support there, they're welcome to attend. But definitely, I think that was one of the most powerful things I learned, that I didn't really expect, that people would take what they're learning in the program and share it immediately with their family members. So yeah, absolutely, we encourage that. And I come from a big family. I have 6 siblings. Like they're just like your family, Carmen. They get up in my business. They want to know everything. I think that's great. Yep. And the more we can share the materials, the information, just get the word out about the study and what we're doing. I think that's so powerful.
If I may.
Yes.
No,
I just want to go back to, that first visit Amy said where families invited, and we ask you to sign some forms or something. I want to emphasize that we actually pause and we say, hey, you don't have to sign anything today. Like, do you want to go home and discuss this with your family? We can call you again. We can give you another appointment. And that's why we have 2 screening visits, right? Because that may happen. You come in, you're excited, you go back. People wonder, like, why can't I just sign today? Why can't you just get me in the study today? It's because we've built in a little time for that. We want to make sure that, in the moment it may feel right. And then you go home and you talk to somebody and you go, oh, maybe I don't have the time to do this right now because it's a lot of commitment or whatever it may be. Or situations change, right? Like, I'm getting a new job, I'm moving. So we don't do that second visit until the beginning of the program so that we can eliminate some of that. But we understand that and we respect that. And we say that throughout the entire process. And what we want people to feel comfortable is to say that to us, not just stop calling us. I hope, in the first visit me, make them feel like family or feel them, like, okay, you're my friend. I can call you and be like, hey, I'm excited and interested, but X, Y, and Z. And so, okay, let's have another conversation. And I think everyone on our team has done that outside of even the 2 appointments, if you get an email or a phone call. So thank you.
well, and one
Yes.
other piece.
Yeah. Go ahead.
There are some other reasons why we're doing those screening visits, making sure you still have pain. We're checking up on you as well. But that transparency, that communication piece, Carmen, I know is something you and I have talked a lot about. So the results that Amy was talking about, they're actually on our website too. That if people want, go to that and they want to see it, and that includes information about our study, but also the feedback that we got from participants, and then what we did with it. That we just didn't sit on it, put it in the recycling bin or whatever, but then how it was utilized. So if people go to our website and it's scrolling on the bottom of the screen, and they go to the About button, they'll see the results. So it's really important that that when we learn things, this is getting out to the community too. It's not just behind a paywall of an expensive journal that people can't get to. Amy, anything else that you want to add to on this part, or?
No, thanks for noting that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I think that's the success of Partners for Pain. It's been my as I participate and I observe and I see how the minute a concern is brought up, it's immediately addressed. It's never shelved for later or pat on the top of the head. But it's taken very seriously, and it was very surprising to me on the seriousness of this team. Not that other teams aren't serious. I don't mean to say anything like that, but it's just when I work in my immigrant multicultural community, monolingual community, it kind of always just it stops short of that grassroots uh, folks. And so I'm really very impressed that that you go beyond that. You go and give out food at UROC. You've gone, as I mentioned before, to the shows in the middle of a snowstorm. I mean, that really shows uh, that perseverance, and that's a good show. And there's food, and everything's going well. What's hard is when we have technical difficulties and the weather, and yet you always show up, and besides that, you always come up with a solution for the next time. And so I really wanted to take this opportunity and thank you so much for that, in getting trust in someone asking you those questions, even though we're guaranteed they're not going to go anywhere. Yeah, right. Who knows?
Right.
And I promise, cross my heart, my pinky square, it's not going to go anywhere, but then you don't know. And so it's a lot of uncertainty. But I also believe that the team and its resilience and its tenacity to be inclusive and to share these other techniques besides having to take maybe more medication, maybe looking at more operations. I don't know. I know I like the thought of having choices, and I like to make an informed decision. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's my choice. It's my decision. And so, but at least I get information. And that's really what I want to do is consider their pain. After a while, we have a tendency to, not even be aware we have the pain. I got a pain in my leg. I'll just limp and walk on the other one. It's okay. Or my back hurts, I'll just sit another way. And so it's important to learn these techniques that Partners for Pain has. And more important than that is these are proven techniques. And I know that you've been doing a lot of presentations. And if you could just share a little bit of when you do a presentation, what the feedback is with your contemporaries and you're sharing what you're doing in research. Is there, do you see a move on that needle? Do you see researchers wanting to know more, or, what do you think? What's the feel of out there?
Well, a couple things, when, and then Sharada, maybe you can jump in because you were at an institute just for such a thing, right? With other researchers. In research, we're always trying to figure out, are these effective, right? This is how science works. We build incrementally, so we can pull these programs together, but we're really trying to figure out if these are going to be effective. The joke is, and when I have people come into the screening appointments at UROC or online, we always are saying May, because we're trying to figure that out, and that's that partnership. We're working in this together. In terms of like doing this work, right, in partnership with you, Carmen, with our other, community partners, there is interest in it, but it takes time. And I think underneath that surface, right, that's what we're trying to to help people understand is that it's that time in relationships, it's that being visible. But then when people see it, it's like, wow, that's really, that's really remarkable, trying to generate that trust. But it's not like you just wave a magic wand or, you give someone a gift card or things. It takes time, as you've described. And Shraddha, you were so the University of Minnesota ran an Engaged Scholar Institute. Our team was there to talk with other researchers. But Shraddha, I'm wondering what you could add to this, what you were starting to see amongst these new folks that are getting into research.
Yeah, so the institute that Doug is describing, it was like a 3-day intensive, and it's trying to move the needle, right? Usually a researcher has an idea and then they go ahead and do this research and here are the results and okay. So, but now we're doing it a little bit differently. We're kind of talking to our community and asking them, what do you need? Because we have the tools, but what are your questions? What are your problems, if you will? And then let's kind of work together to see how we can do the research together, right? Because we may have the science and the community has the insights into the community and why this problem exists. And, the answers may be more complex than this one answer that the researcher may come up with. So it's kind of like a collaboration. So it was nice to see that that's the new direction, at least when we look at community engaged research and how it's gaining momentum right now, is happening. I think when Doug maybe joined the team and started this, there was no like guidelines or, how to. People were kind of working alone, but it's nice to see that now the community is building to come together and say, hey, yeah, we recognize this is important. Let's have the basis so the person doesn't have to kind of reinvent the wheel each time. Um, I want to brag about Partners for Pain a little bit because when I went there to learn something, I was happy to see that we already do the work. So that was really good. Sitting amongst like at a table with all the other researchers who were kind of like, oh my God, that seems hard. How do you do it? How do you even go about doing it? I felt good just knowing like, okay, I'm in a unique position where Doug and, our lead researchers, Dr. Ronnie Evans and Brett Leninger, who were all also, well, Brent was on and maybe Ronnie will be on, but they've done the hard work with Doug and our community member, like our CAT team, which you're a part of too, Carmen. So I was going to say, I felt good to be like, okay, I'm already doing the hard work, but at the same time acknowledging and being in the conference, realizing like how it's so new to so many people. But so we were invited as a panelist to kind of talk about how we do it, what we do it. Is it a smooth process? No, there may be bumps along the road, but how do we navigate it? And so they were learning from our kind of, yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Can I add one thing to that, Carmen? And I want to say, Shraddha, you bring up this really important point, like the community partners that are generous with their time and that there was trust. There's a risk that goes in there, and saying thank you and compensation really doesn't, you've never fully compensate. I think that's what one of our other partners says, stuff with their time. But I think some of the important ways, Carmen, as you work with youth, right, is being able to show what research can be and how it can be, and giving then access to people to see the process, to see that there are lots of different roles in this, and be able to have this kind of like this next generation of researchers go, you know what, like I could do that, or that's a place for me. I really like that. And then I think that, like we didn't have this type of research taught in my graduate program. That's not necessarily really uncommon. But then to be able to have students that are already like thinking about that, they can see how it's done, they're going to move the needle, generations down the line. We're doing work now, but if it's going to continue this, then we need to make sure that this new group of researchers, right, will be constantly, thinking about this, pushing the boundaries, when I'm long gone, retired, and later dust, right?
Before you get that done and retired, I have to let you know that my phone is dying.
Oh no!
And it's gonna disconnect me in a second. And I wondered, Douglas, if you could take the show to the end, because it's telling me it's gonna knock me out.
Okay, I'll do my best. All right. So
appreciate it. Is
absolutely.
that okay?
Yeah, thank you for having us, Carmen. You're always really generous, so we appreciate it.
Gracias.
Gracias. Okay. Well, we talked a little bit about sort of the safety element. And I think one of the pieces that, if we talk about someone coming in new to research, right, or coming into our office, maybe they're thinking about the study for a grandparent, for a parent, or themselves. What is kind of the one takeaway that you'd hope that they would, remember about our particular study or about participating in research? That maybe this is something that we haven't talked about yet. Kind of what that last really important nugget.
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, Doug, are you thinking like, what kind of experience will they have? How will they be treated, perhaps? Am I on the
Yeah.
right track?
Where I think about it, one, that is it, right? We haven't really addressed that, like, our team spends a lot of time on training, right, to see the person that's coming in there. And it could be also something around the idea that, it's voluntary. When you come into the office, you could do the study, but you can leave without a penalty to you or anything else. Is there an item that hasn't yet been discussed that you want to leave with our audience today that they should know about participating, if they came to our study and wanted to participate?
I have one thing because Carmen was saying that, our program materials or we have two programs. One is called Partners4Pain and the other one's called Keys to Wellbeing. And sometimes when people have two programs, are people going to say, "Oh, like is one the main program and is other one the well, I don't want to be in this one." I want to emphasize that we have research backed tools in each program that are valuable. Both the programs meet for the same time each week. 9 weeks of interventions or education programs, 90 minutes each. So we've put equal thought into both the programs. So even, as a researcher and a facilitator, I feel comfortable when a person lands in one or the other because I know that they're going to get something out of either one of them. And so there is really no, kind of like a main or not main program. So I want to emphasize that, like, you hear two programs all the time and they're both so valuable. I'm equally excited about both of them. I'm very confident that in both of them, they'll get something. And I think our results speak for that, right, Amy?
Yeah.
It wasn't like one program said they approved and the other, like, thank you. So that was my piece.
Could I ask a quick clarifier? So there's not like a placebo in
Yeah,
it.
thank
There's
you.
not, okay, so
Yeah.
two programs, we end up with two good programs that can be put out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amy, is anything else that you want to add to that? And then maybe that part that hasn't been talked about, because we have just a couple of minutes that remain on this broadcast.
Yeah. No, I'll agree with Shraddha. I do get folks that ask, right, well, which one is the better one? And I honestly can say, I think they're both very valuable. And I've led both programs. I've been the facilitator for each of them. So I agree with you, Shraddha, 100%. I think that is something that we can feel really good about offering in this study. You're going to get something out of it no matter what. And sometimes it's a surprising thing, like that group dynamic. People don't necessarily come in expecting to make good friends, but I love watching the friendships that strike up in the groups. And it might be folks they're from completely different backgrounds, completely different ages. We have people in the programs from ages 23 to like 85. And I remember a couple of different pairings, one, an older white woman struck up a really very warm and genuine friendship with a younger Asian man who was very corporate. You wouldn't expect the pairings, but the pain unites people. And also just being in that group environment and sharing, I think, really unites people. So that's one takeaway that I think participants might not expect. But one other thing I want to share is my observations on this team. And again, I came in from a community organization. I came in from a very different perspective, but I was always so struck with how respectful this team is of participants. I think maybe I thought that researchers were, nerds in the laboratory, like they didn't have people skills. Like, right, my bias, my ignorance, I've learned a lot. This team is incredibly respectful We work to be as accommodating as we can be. And the programs themselves, we even say, you know, do what works for you. Listen to your body, right? We say all these, we give these permissions to make the programs work for you. And we worked as hard as we can, as Shraddha mentioned earlier, you know, providing transportation, we provide a small compensation. Like, we really try to be respectful, to be honoring of participants' time. And I think one thing that speaks to this, for the number of years I've been with this team, I've been on 4 different studies that our team has done, and we have repeat volunteers that come back from study to study. I can think of a handful of people that have done at least 3 studies with us. So I think that speaks volumes, that people know us, they like us, they're willing to come back and work with us again and again because they like how they were treated.
And I'm going to piggyback on that, and maybe this is sort of how we'll bring this broadcast to a close too. Is that I think that relational piece. You know, we spend a lot of time building relationships with community partners, but when people come into our studies, and we do spend a lot of time making sure that the individual is seen, I think that's such an important piece. And if I were to leave something, you know, to or impress upon folks when they come to us, it's like when you're in that first screening appointment, whether it's on Zoom, you know, whether you're talking to one of us at, let's say, an event, you can ask questions.
Yeah.
Right? That's invited. And hopefully, you know, as we're trying to be out in front, whether it's on broadcasts or in other places, that people see that. And when they see, you know, our logo, our T-shirts, maybe they recognize us, that it's okay to ask. And when you're in the office, what we're trying to do is make sure that you feel comfortable, that you know what's going to happen in the study, that you know that you have rights, you know, about your information, about being able to withdraw from it, and that you're okay with that. And that, I think, you know, whether it's in the doctor's office or in other places, you know, we're not always real comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And when folks are with me during the screenings, I say, you don't get a punch card for the number of questions. You know, you ask 5 questions, ask 15, 20, keep going. No one's keeping score on that, because that individual, right? Our individuals and our as participants, they're irreplaceable in so many ways, and we want to make sure that people understand that they are important and that our actions reflect that. Yeah. Well, I think this is bringing us to a close on this program. I'd really like to thank our panelists who have taken time. So Amy and Shraddha, you know, thank you so much for participating today, for making time to kind of bring down the curtain or the wall to show people what's going to happen, and to also really just let people see a little bit about you and how you do this work, and I'm going to say it, the passion that you bring towards working with participants in lots of different ways. So I'd like to thank our hosts and also the partners for this program. It's sad to see Carmen go, but she does such a great job and is generous with offering it. And I'd like to give a shout out to Pepe too, who is our producer and handling the post-production. It's been such a pleasure. So please reach out to us at partners4pain.org. We are an email or a phone call away. And it's been good to share our experience with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.